Welcome everyone to the MasterMe client review video. We do these videos to let others know about the work that we do on the course. And I'm very happy to have Yvie, a previous client, with me joining me today. Hello, Yvie.
Hello.
So Yvie is a very talented teacher, and she has been frustrated with the way and nature of her work, the system and things like that, and wanting more freedom and flexibility in the work, and came to me when you were pretty confused, I'd say, about certainly what you wanted and certainly the next steps to take. And yeah, I think we've got to a really amazing place. But so let's start with that point there where we first met. How are you feeling, and what sort of made you feel like you needed extra support?
Yeah, so basically spot on. I am still a teacher, but I was wanting more. And I really felt like I had, and still do, of course, have more to offer. But I just didn't know how to harness it. And I knew, I was a pretty self-reflective person even prior to meeting you. So, but almost to a fault, like so self-reflective that I was just getting really lost, and it just felt like it was kind of there, but foggy. And yeah, I have a love for children, of course, but also for people. So it was just a case of, I guess, just harnessing that, reining it in, and sort of having some clarity, seeking some clarity. Kind of like I'm 32 in December. So there's this phenomenon, I think, around this age where lots of big life stuff is kind of around the corner or is currently happening, and you're just not sure what you want to do. And I think COVID definitely played a role. Like, holy crap, is this it? Is this what it's going to be? Because when we meet, or when anyone who meets with you knows, it's 2 hours and it's an overload of information, and it's somewhere between like therapy but also professional development, because it's also intersectional, right? Like it's all linked. But it's in the moments between visits that you're doing something really mundane, like going on your walk or doing the work that you've got to do, or that you have those little light bulb moments. And it's only when you speak, when we finally see each other again, where you ask and how's your week going, or how's the last couple of weeks going, and you think you haven't really done much, and then you talk about it and you're like, oh wow, I've actually done all this growing.
Totally.
Like,
it's really that ability, like, to just acknowledge it for the next 8 weeks. You're going to focus on yourself. When we have these big conversations, it's all about you. And then you go away and you actually, all these thoughts are percolating it, because it takes time to really unravel and unpack our deepest desires and the things that we really want, and think about, do I want this or not? But with those frameworks that we offer to help sort of break them down, putting pen to paper and really committing to trying to work this out, and it just bubbles up and percolates. And absolutely, I'm glad to hear that worked for you like that.
And in terms of breakthrough moments, I guess, in the course, as you know, it was a case of really kind of clarifying all these swirling thoughts that were happening in my mind about, well, okay, what are the next steps, both personally and professionally. And that's actually something interesting too. I think I came to you with a real focus on the professional side of my life. But you can't compartmentalize these things, right? Like they all feed into one another.
And you're also like really strong that you guys wanted to travel as a couple, and you kind of had these sort of parameters that you had, but you're kind of juggling them out. So we really fleshed those out. And, like I say, through the coursework, we look at personality and strengths and psychology, and that enables us to take a step back from the CV and then sort of think about, okay, what are the elements, what are the breadcrumbs that have to be there? What are my friends telling me that I'm good at? All these sorts of things together. And then you and I have these big conversations about what it could be, and we brainstorm, and then we finally start to find these things that might tick all those boxes. And that's what
it's that spitballing that I really relished in. Like, of course the work is important and crucial to the course working, and the conversations that we have and all that percolation or marination or whatever you want to call it. But actually it's that spitballing of ideas, which I know I've told you about before, where it's the simple question stem of you going, well, okay, but what about this? Or I'm just wondering what this would look like. And so it's just having that person just a mind dump of ideas.
Do you want to share that with people as well? Like, because you came into the course thinking that was where you had to go, and you actually were able to step back from what you thought was the right direction. And you did your own research during the course, which helped us to work out what was the right process. And then you actually came to a different realization. What was that like?
Yeah, that's right. So essentially it was kind of, and I think it's probably a reflection of feeling, really lost and white knuckling this idea of, okay, this is going to be it and it has to be it. And without this idea of speech pathology, then I'm back to square one, and, I can't be back to square one, which was actually quite a pattern leading up to seeing you anyway. Right. Yeah. So to put it succinctly, super lost. Teacher is my profession. And then I knew that out of the personality traits, and certainly a lot of what people had said to me, and where I find I'm most comfortable is in sort of leadership roles or entrepreneurial kind of thoughts. And so I knew I wanted to lead somehow, and that I was going to run a business of some description. But again, it was cloudy. So when speech pathology was kind of, when it kind of came up, I was like, okay, this is it. My love for children, my love of language, I can have my own practice. And then I researched the hell out of it. I really did. I mean, I knocked on every single university in Australia during the pandemic to see, what it could look like and how it could fit in with my life, given that, it would be a career change. And I tried really hard, it was like weeks of like going to webinars and speaking to people and really just getting a lot of the same rhetoric that I don't like in the education system, which is that, you have to jump through all these hoops and, to prove something that, you can do. So really it was about letting go.
Yeah.
It was about,
by doing that, you thought that was the right option. And then we said, okay, let's go in there and let's explore that. Like, what are the steps? Who do you need to talk to? And so we, you found those people to talk to in that industry. And then as you quickly researched, you realized, oh my gosh, this is the same problem I'm going to face again. And so that was the point we started to go, okay, well, maybe this is a too hard basket. Maybe this is actually not the right way. And
that's right.
And then that led you to kind of more where you've got to today, I think.
That's right. It was the permission from you, from someone third party, to say, actually, it's totally okay to let this go. Yep. You have done everything you can. You've done your due diligence. Just take a breath and go, this isn't for you. And that's it's quite simple really upon reflection, but my God, like that was like an exhale, like, oh, actually this doesn't have to be it. There are so many options. So that kind of led me, I guess the old me would have been like, well, we're back to square one, but it wasn't. It was kind of like, you're kind of still ahead. You've just kind of gone in a different direction, but you're still further away from where you were, which is okay.
Making progress. It's all about that growth mindset that there's no challenges, there's no failures. We're just learning and becoming more closer, or moving closer to who we want to become.
Who we want to become. That's exactly right. And I think what I should mention too, which I found probably the most surprising, was this idea of, it's going to sound very, very woo-woo and quite cliche, but meeting yourself again. Yes. Like this idea of an old friend, like, where have you been? Oh, like, there you are. Yes, you were always there. You always had the answers. You always knew what felt right and what you needed to do, but you just needed someone to kind of hold your hand to get there a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The course really does have a kind of an unconscious, subconscious approach to it, where we do the journaling, where we start to get in touch with our inner monologue and our inner thought process. But then also when we do the self-image and personal narrative work, we start to get in touch with the person we have been, who we are today, and who we want to become. But then finally, in that mindset work, you really do get up close and personal with the thoughts and really design the way we want to think about the world. And there's that relationship you start to realize that the mind has with your actual reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was not something I had expected necessarily. I think sort of I got, it's obvious, it's quite confronting and it's so rewarding and it's all of those wonderful things. And you have to put the work in and it's uncomfortable at times, there's no doubt. But I didn't expect to get so emotional. Like in that one particular session when we were talking about this idea of intuition and that sort of subconscious mind, I was like, it really took me by surprise, just like the emotional component of it, because I didn't actually realize that that part of me needed to be revisited again.
Yeah, well, we're so hard on ourselves, aren't we? And like really when you start to build a relationship with yourself and you start to treat yourself like a friend, you realize, geez, how hard we are on each other. And that building that self-love, which is easy to understand, but actually as you build that relationship, and how can I look after myself? How can I think of myself as not only a good diet of food, a good diet of social media, but also a good diet of my own thoughts? How do I actually provide a wellness for myself? And then you start to take care of yourself, and the benefits just start to roll out in front of you.
Yeah, that's probably, been my favorite part. In terms of where we're at now, lots has happened professionally, personally, globally. Lots has happened. So basically I'm studying a Master's of Education next year with a research component. What we ended up drilling down and realizing is that what I love so much about the craft of teaching is this idea of engagement and neuroscience principles and how they interrelate and how they don't interrelate, which I believe they need to. And so, it was, again, that spitballing. Okay, well, what do you love and why do you love it? And is it just the kids, or is it actually wanting to really make a difference and make this experience of education for children better and deeper and more rigorous? And, and how do you do that? You study the craft of true engagement and build the capacity of teachers in the future to be able to do that. Because that was something that I'd always done in my classroom, but a classroom of 22, unless someone comes in and watches you and is, wondering more, you're not touching as many as I want to. So it's that.
In other words, you've found a method or means to tick all the boxes for you professionally, but not compromise as much on your values of freedom, autonomy, but also genuinely like working close with people, kids, and fostering that engagement with that whole brain learning that you've been talking about. That's right. But then you also
being on the periphery of the system, but not a part.
Exactly. Leading change and really driving it rather than being forced to toe the line within the industry. So you've managed to find some freedom within that. And then the sort of the trump card on top of all of that was working in the travel plans as well, to this plan as well, where you and your partner could still maintain the travel while still not compromising on that goal to move yourself forward in your career. Do you want to tell everyone about your plans roughly?
Yeah, absolutely. That's spot on. I always kind of felt like they were mutually exclusive. This idea of, getting in a last hurrah before, settling down, settling down. And that was always going to be abroad. But of course, COVID sort of threw a spanner in that. But I guess the important part was realizing that they're actually not mutually exclusive, and you can go away and have this adventure and still propel yourself forward in lots and lots of ways, right?
Yeah.
Like
if you're creative and you think smart about the way you do it, you can. Yeah.
Absolutely, you can. Now, it's just it has all just felt right. The puzzle
perfectly. Yeah. That's great. That's a dream result. So when you think about where you're feeling now, that confidence and clarity about moving forward in your life professionally and also within the relationship and also sort of tying into your whole life almost, is a very holistic approach we've taken, versus how you felt, starting this course. How would you compare the difference, and how would you describe that?
I think I'd said to you at the very beginning in that sort of initial consultation on the phone, I want to feel lighter. Like I want to feel lighter in the mind and lighter in my heart. And, this idea of that kind of heaviness of those thoughts and where you're going to go and what are you going to do, and I'm going to disappoint everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, I can safely say like there's an exhale, you know, there's just that this exhale, this definite feeling of lightness. And
last question, how would you describe the course to someone watching this?
Okay. I guess it's part professional, part personal development, whereby you see your clarification is sought, I suppose you could say. It's all encompassing. And I think you've got to be prepared for that. I think you come in perhaps wanting one part of your life, you know, to be clearer, which there's no doubt that will happen if that's going to be your focus.
Yep.
But it's also important to recognize that all the other facets of your being come into play, because one cannot operate without the other. So just be prepared for, you know, of course you're going to need to do the work, but also be prepared to dig a little deeper into yourself and go to places that might not feel comfortable, but, you know, ultimately discomfort is where the growth lies.
That's right. Yeah, it's really, you know, time after time, it always comes back to balance. And if you're like really out of balance, you're not gonna do so well long term, at least. And so we try to take a really holistic approach and sort of no stone unturned. And hopefully the result is that you feel complete and also completely clear on where you want to go.
Yeah. I might also add, which might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I think the reason why the course works is for obvious reasons, in the sense that there's a lot of work behind the scenes that has gone into the program. But also something should be noted about you being the facilitator of that program. I think you feel quite safe. You're obviously like a quite humble, very zen dude. And I think that was one of my reservations, you know, like, oh, is he going to, you know, car salesman, like life coach guy? Like, I don't know if I'm down for this. And it was entirely the opposite. It was just a very lovely conversation, a chat with a friend almost. And it was in those sort of very, very calm, you know, bead moments. It felt like guidance as opposed to a big sell. Yeah. And I think that's something that people should know. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Yvie. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
You know, it's just about providing the tools and the space for people to do the work themselves ultimately. And a truckload of questions as we just inquire about what could be better here, or what could be a faster route forward, and what could be another way forward. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Yvie. I really appreciate it. If anyone wants to contact me or are interested about hearing anything more about the course, you can send me a direct message or email me at bead@masterme.com.au or visit my website, www.masterme.com.au. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.